This is the Segovia Show.
Greetings, everyone. All right, that's the setup it's supposed to be. But for now, my ugly mug. Welcome to the stream, Daniel. It's been a while. I was trying to do live streaming a lot more often, but schedules tend to be a mess, and schedules tend to be a mess, and well, I was trying to get on the Rumble creator program, so I was trying to get back into rhythm of doing live streaming on a schedule. That didn't happen, so I applied twice. Each time I was denied. Vague reasons, but I'm not a gamer, okay? So that they're really appealing to gamers right now. But still, I'm on Rumble. I'm gonna keep streaming to Rumble as I am right now. So welcome, Rumble, YouTube, Twitch. All of you are the ones I'm streaming to initially right now. And hold on, let me get my banner up here. For you guys who are not familiar, my last episode, I did an interview with the CEO of Dead Moose Ops, also known as Dead Moose Operators. And it's a knife company. I showed off the TIG before I did an unboxing and all that. And for those of you that are interested in checking out those kind of knives, you can go over to dmoknives.com, type in Segovia at checkout. You get 10% off your order. So you can let Jeff and Jen over there know that I sent you over there. But believe me, once you hold one of those knives, you'll realize, holy smokes, man, this is a legit tool. So anyway, on the docket for today, I actually just wrapped up a much lengthier recording session than I thought it was to discuss social media platforms. So some tech things that I have working in the background. I was going to cover the current landscape of social media platforms, and I decided, you know what? Why don't I just have Yossi? He's from the Yoshi Smith Show, and he does basically just coverage of platforms, like all kinds of social medias, and he dropped 3 big reviews in the past month or so regarding 3 of the major competitors to X. And well, let's just say he was fair and transparent and harsh, because it's the truth. So we got to talking about that on my episode that I'm going to air next week. I thought it was going to be a smaller segment, but we went a lot longer, and it's fine. So that's in the works. Also, I have invited somebody. I'm going to follow up with them with respects to AI. So normally when the discussions of AI, we talk about the downsides of it, but there are upsides of it. And yours truly uses AI. I actually utilize a lot of it. And I talk about Gemini, Grok, and most recently Gork, which is kind of funny to interact with. And was Gab AI. So I have those AIs that I have used, and Gemini. I think I said Gemini, right? So are the fears warranted? We'll see. And I'm hoping that I'm able to have this guest on the program. With or without them, the show must go on. So for today, I'm going to be doing some news roundups on a few things. As always, there are unplugged updates because I am still beta testing the firmware that, as of I last checked, has not been officially launched or rolled out to the phone yet. So what I'm experiencing, odds are that you're not experiencing unless you're on the firmware program. So let me give you some quick updates on that. Also, the above phone that you guys have been asking about. I got an update for you guys that have been seeing my social feeds, and I another Parler update. And depending on how much time I have, I might live react to something that was given to me by some of the over at Parler HQ because I had red flags go up when I saw a certain somebody getting involved at the senior advisory level. It's like, wait, is this more of the same? So we'll see. So one of the big ones though is Rob Braxman's update with respect to the delays of the Brax3, since that's going to be the lion's share of this episode. So I won't dive into that one first. Let me talk unplugged and let me bring that up. So back on April, Unplugged dropped this update on their blog, which is important about open sourcing Unplugged kernel and antivirus. So if you guys missed the MO, then you guys missed what that all entailed. So Aaron Karpin is the chief technology officer and one of the co-founders of Unplugged, and I did have him on my show. I interviewed him along with the chief operating officer at the time, and thank you to everybody that made it the biggest episode interview I have ever done on any platform anywhere, especially for those of you on X. Graphene OS could not ignore it. So they definitely checked that one out and they signal boosted that one for better or worse on their end. But a lot's gone on, a lot's happened, and Iran in that episode did make a lot of promises, and they delivered. So that's one thing that I've appreciated about Unplugged. They didn't overpromise, but they wanted to deliver on the mission they set out to accomplish. And some of the stuff were not available at the time I was doing my long-term review. They are available now. So if you are in the know-how, and I did cover this before on a different stream. And speaking of streams, is it just me or is it or the frames dropping? Let me check this real quick because when you're live, you're live. You can't really walk it back. So let me just check this real quick before we get any deeper into the woods on this. Um, where is it? Okay, let me see. What do you guys see that? Um, are you guys able to see what I see? Yeah. So I don't understand. It looks fine to me. I'm getting signals over from StreamYard telling me that you guys are getting pixelated viewing, but over on YouTube is the connection's holding strong. So I don't know what you guys might be seeing over on Rumble. So if you're tuning in, let me know if you're on Rumble if you might be seeing something grainy. But so far it looks strong and holding on YouTube. Let me just check one more time here on Rumble. This would be my own videos. So let me see. And thank you to those of you on Rumble that are tuning in. I'll be able to show your live chat. Yeah, it's for the most part, it looks fine. So I don't know what the deal is, but it's telling me it's a very weak signal. But the show must go on. So we'll see. Alrighty, let's get through this thing, shall we? All right, so Unplugged did open source their antivirus, which they had done actually months before this announcement, but the big one was their kernel. So, like I said, I did cover this, and Eric Prince, if you're still seeing this, yes, the invitation is still open. I know we couldn't make it work out back in November, then again in January, but I'm always happy to talk unplugged with you and other stuff because I really gotta know what is it that you do, man. I got questions. So the bootloader can be unlocked on the unplugged phone without voiding the warranty, and it's available over on GitHub. This is important for anybody that's into developing. You would know what that is. So it's called the UP01 kernel repository. It's open source and available over on GitHub. Everybody said that really took Unplugged to task. This was one of the reasons why, and they were working towards it. At first, they were a little apprehensive, admittedly, but then they ended up releasing it. So, credit to where credit's due. Iran delivered on everything. Like, the company delivered on everything that Iran said on my show that they would do. So, credit to where credit's due. So, everybody that lambasted them because they didn't do it out the gate, hey, you guys should apologize to them because you're the ones eating crow. So what does it look like now, though? So there's two things. One is this. The unplugged phone has been out of stock for a few weeks now. I have checked it out, and I was curious because to see will the tariffs impact the pricing. So when I checked it out, it's like, holy smokes, you guys don't even have any to sell right now because you're waiting on the next batch. They're expecting the next batch by mid July 2025. So if you order now, you can still cancel your order if you're tired of waiting. And I did have some of you over my different videos chiming in that you are still using your unplugged phone and you're happy with it. And not very many of you are asking about the second one because I think a lot of you realize that they need to iron out the the OS first before anything else. So I did check the phone for updates. The last update that I was able to install on it was, I think, the beginning. This is the beta firmware, by the way. The last beta firmware I installed, I believe, was the first week of April, but the change log on the unplugged beta firmware said it was March 27th, which was a little odd because it was the same log when I did install an update then. So I still haven't been able to find what was different about it. Everything kind of looked and felt the same way. But I can tell you that how they built out their privacy center, that's it's what really stands out above everything else, honestly. So let me get to that. No, that's still the. I want to see the updated one because it's easier this way. Uh, and I am looking to for my future updates. Oh, here we go. This, can I pause it? I don't want. Oh, go back, go back, go back, go back. Wait, let me. How do I pause the slideshow? It's this entire privacy center that's really awesome. So let me see if I could find it down here. The latest update for you guys to see, because yeah, here we go. So this whole thing is the creme de la creme of this device. This is what makes it special. This is what um if this thing had the hardware of, say, a Samsung, that's that's what would be the most awesome privacy device since a BlackBerry, a an Android powered BlackBerry. Because Android powered BlackBerry had a privacy center. They had something called DTEC, and also some safety switches on it. So BlackBerry Protect was something that I relied on wholeheartedly because first off, it was BlackBerry and it comes from legacy OS days of BlackBerry. So this is the closest thing that I have seen to anything close to that. And that was actually one of the first things I've ever discussed with Unplugged execs. I'm like, you guys are trying to fill in the gap that was left by BlackBerry. So this could be a prayer that's being answered because I've been complaining about that on my streams. And this is as close as it gets. So one thing that I'm waiting for, I am waiting for the official rollout of the beta software that I'm testing, because that makes this whole phone feel like this is polished, this is finalized software, this is no longer experimenting kind of thing. I want that update to be complete and rolled out so then I can then move from beta firmware over to the official software. And to do that, I will once again do the self-destruct on the phone. So for those of you that are unawares, I did the self-destruct, and at the time that I did my review, I didn't catch this. And I reported this to Unplug. It wiped the phone. It did not wipe my SD card. And I didn't realize that until I reset the phone. Like I had to set up like new again. So when I was setting it up, because I wanted to do the beta firmware test, and I asked them, hey, how do I get access to that? And they told me the steps to take that I could do it from my phone. So, okay, cool. So I had just finished testing for long-term review. A lot of editing went into that, and so many hours of filming just to come down to that short overall what you see as a short review of a long-term review. But so much work went into that, like, okay, I need a break from the unplugged phone. So because I erased it to factory settings through the self-destruct functions, I did not go back to see how the self-destruct performed until sometime later when I went to set up the phone. So when I did that and I went to my files to see my picture gallery and making sure I had everything set up, I'm like, that's interesting. Why do I have pictures on this phone? And I saw that these were pictures stored on my SD card that I took during my review. I'm like, but I thought I offloaded all of that before I self-destruct. Wait, I did self-destruct and it didn't erase the SD card. So I did report it to Iran. They were going to look into it. This was back in December or whatever it was. Or early January, and I haven't done a test since. So I'm waiting for the official rollout of the updated software that I've been testing, so then I could once again do the factory reset. And I do want to do it live with all of you. Um, Here on one of these streams, I will do this live, so there's no editing trickery going on, and see if it will indeed delete the SD card that I didn't notice it didn't do when I did the self-destruct test. Okay, so that's the long and short of these updates. That's they're on back order right now with the unplugged phone, which is great. As far as I know, the initial order that they got was 10,000 units. So when they sent me a phone, they had already had 500 production models of the device, and I was given one of them because those were separated for the testers. So in late spring 2024 is when they got their 10,000 shipped over to Las Vegas to then get distributed to those that were ordering the phone. By November, around the time that Mr. Prince and I were scheduled to do a podcast, he was on with Glenn Beck. And when he did the Glenn Beck podcast, he and Ryan Patterson was also on that one. He's the CEO of Unplugged. They were on that podcast together. There, Erik Prince dropped the nugget that they had ordered another 10,000 because they were running out of the current supply. So now that they're sold out of this other one, I'm assuming, based on my calculations, based on anything that's been reported publicly, obviously I'm not on the inside, I don't know, it could be more, that they have at least sold 20,000 devices worth from two major shipments. One like spring 2024, and the other one around fall 2024. And I would assume that if they're ordering by like the increments of 10,000, that if they did order another 10,000, and because of the supply shortages throughout the world, that might be what's been holding the next order back. And this is all assumptions, and Unplug can correct me if I am wrong. So that's just all my assumption. And speaking of assumptions, when I get to the Brax3 thing, I will be live reacting to that video to see how right I was about my previous coverage and predictions about what's the holdup and what might change for the future regarding the Brax3 future manufacturing. Okay, so that's my promise to you guys. I'm not done with this phone. That's what I said. I'm like, I'm done with this phone. Then the beta program opens up. I'm not done with this phone. So I'm still working on it. And I'm enjoying the process. And a lot of you, based on the YouTube analytics, that's the second top viewed search results on my YouTube channel. Number one's BlackBerry with Porsche design. So yeah, I still have, I owe it to you guys. I gotta do a Porsche design episode. And I mean Porsche design. I'm talking about anything and everything that I own Porsche design, from tech to tech gear, which I do have. Okay, and not all of it's good news, by the way. So just letting you know. Okay, so that's my quick rundown of Unplugged. They open sourced their kernel. I covered it before, but that is a major deal in them keeping their promises. But in terms of what's happening on the front with, like, okay, what's going on with the shipment? Where's the big update to the phone? When will it finally roll out? Yours truly did provide a lot of feedback in terms of apps that should be on this phone's availability for the Unplugged store. Almost everything that I requested them to add, they added it within 24 hours. So it's available from the Unplugged store. You can check it out. Some of those apps I've demoed on my streams before. So good. Oh, I must add though, Intel Unison. I covered it on one of my episodes and I talk about it a lot. The Intel Unison app, while I love it, I'm disappointed with this update. And let me pull it up. This is from Intel themselves. Okay, so for those of you wondering what that is, Intel Unison is this. It's where it's kind of like AirPlay or like Microsoft's Phone Link for Android. It does exist for iOS, but very limited because Apple is a closed OS versus an open source OS. So Intel Unison was that. Apparently, Microsoft's Phone Link supposedly does not work without Google Play services, so you won't find that in the Unplugged store. And I'll look more into that, but Intel Unison is open source, so this one was okay. But I found out that by next month, Intel is sunsetting this app. So they will no longer, you will no longer be able to use it supposedly on your Android of choice, but they will still keep this as an option for Lenovo PCs. So I don't know. I have a suspicion it has something to do with the fact that a lot of PCs have been moving to Qualcomm, and Qualcomm is technically a competitor towards Intel chips. That's my assumption. From the business mindset, it makes sense. So that could be. and we'll see about that. All right, so let me quickly run down this update from the above phone. Some of you on YouTube will probably notice that the podcast version of this is up. I did do an episode where I gave my thoughts and reactions to what is the above phone, and I don't think above phone saw the video before the CEO contacted me. So I have been in touch with the CEO about possibly testing the operating system to see if I could sideload it myself, and I'm waiting to hear back if that might be a possibility. So we've been trading emails back and forth. I haven't heard any confirmation on that, but if it does, then I'm looking forward to putting this thing through its paces and reporting back to you, because this is another one of those competitors in the space. They've been around for about 3 years, I think. 2021, I think they says when they developed this. And the CEO Hakeem, he's been doing some interviews too. So I did tell him that you're welcome to it. If we can work something out for June, then we'll work it out in June. Other than that, that's how slow some of these things move, and things take time to develop. So it's not like, yeah, let's do it tomorrow. That's not entirely possible. So I'll keep you up to date. That's the quick rundown of the above phone, and we'll see what happens from there. So now, which one do I do first? Parler or Brax3? Let me do Brax3, because if I don't have the time, because I am on the clock here, because I did do a very long recording session prior to this live stream. So let me focus more instead on this update from um, Rob Braxman. Great. This might be a problem. Your browser has lost connection to your screen share audio. Try sharing your screen again, restart your browser. This continues to be a problem. Hey, I'm live streaming Streamyard, so this might actually be a problem. So let me try this. I'll try to reshare the tab, because it's a YouTube video. If this does not work out, then I won't be able to do either this update or the Parler update. So let me see. Okay, let's see if this will sound. I Now I'll be able to hear the audio because I'm on the studio. But let me pull up YouTube to make sure that you guys will be able to hear it. Okay, I'm gonna hit play and see what happens. If you guys don't hear it, that means I won't be able to do this.
There's a delay on the shipment of the Brax3 phone, which is now targeted for June.
All right, that means we're good to go. I like that. All right, so don't lose connection, StreamYard. All right, so I'm gonna play this and let's react together. One of my last tech streams where I give an update on the Brax3 shipping delay, which is a bummer, because it's now expected sometime in June, maybe mid to late June. Original anticipation was to have it over on March. They actually did offer the phone to me back in December. This is before they ran into these difficulties, and then for the beta, they didn't send me for the beta testing. They wanted to keep it more internal. So I didn't get my hands on this device ahead of time, but it was offered to me and I did accept. It's just we couldn't make it work out. Now I did make some commentary last week as to my assumptions from, again, the business mindset, as to what they learned from all this and what they can apply for the next batch of Brax3 devices, because the first ones they're going to be sending out, they're not going to be sending out that many on the initial round, I think, but it'll be to the earliest adopters first, like the first come first serve basis kind of thing. And I did make some mention of it because they did drop this major announcement that was kind of like a very buried towards the bottom, that they are working on a minimal version of the OS itself that you can install. I think they were calling Liberty OS, something like that. I have to double check. So you can sideload it, but by default, the phone will be shipping with IODE. So I found that decision interesting because I said that might be a way to work around any delays that they met with IODE because of all the moving parts. Again, if you really look at this, these guys have been dealing with the hardware. IODE has been dealing with the software, and these guys didn't have to make the software work with the hardware. And at first, it looked like it all did, and then they ran into the IMEI issue. So let's see what Rob has to say. This thing, I sped it up to 1.5 times speed, so Rob doesn't speak this fast for his videos, but for time's sake, yeah. And I don't know if I'll play the whole thing, but let's see.
Want to be completely transparent and explain the causes to you. By the time I release this video, the delay may already be shortened, but I really want to focus on the problem we discovered, and I want to explain it in detail. If you're impatiently waiting for your phone to arrive, I'm sure you will be disappointed with any delays, but it isn't all bad news, so please listen to the entire story. What is key is that we learn about some technical issues that relate to compatibility with the OS, and it was discovered during the final production run. Brax3 is a community project. While our company, Brax Technologies Inc., managed the hardware manufacturing, the OS is actually being made by multiple players. The first OS to be released with the phone is EOD OS. Although we planned to release the phone last March, we were not able to do that because a final version of EOD OS was not yet ready. However, I want to make it clear that the hardware was in fact ready. To aid in the OS process.
All right, so far, that's what I said. Those were my assumptions because I'm like, the hardware was technically ready. But they haven't been able to finalize assembly, so to speak, because they did mention assembly was one of the hiccups they ran into because the whole tariff thing. But they're going to move assembly over to Europe to try to soften that, and they still might, by the way, in case this fight still continues with the tariff wars, because the tariff thing is supposed to be a stay on the 100% whatever for like 90 days. So still, anything can happen between now and 3 months.
We started a beta test campaign, and a group of volunteers got the Brax3 phone early and were able to test EOD OS. After several bug fixes with the help of the community, a release version of EOD OS had been completed, and it also coincided with the update of EOD OS to now be based on Android 15. IMEI flash failure. The new delay was discovered at the factory when they attempted to flash a new IMEI to each device. As it turns out, you cannot flash the IMEI on phones installed with EOD OS. Well, this seemed weird initially and perhaps shocking. We finally now understand what the causes are and the solution. I will be frank with you that I did not know this myself. First, EOD OS is based on Lineage OS. Lineage OS is one of the most popular alternate OS solutions for Android because it supports so many phone models. But I didn't understand the architecture of how Lineage OS works. When a phone is made, the motherboard maker, either MediaTek or Qualcomm, will provide a base Android open source project image that is complete with all the drivers needed for the phone to work. So Android open source project is AOSP. For most other operating systems based on AOSP, like our own Lunar OS, Calyx OS, or Graphene OS, these drivers are directly integrated into a complete flashable image of the OS. But that's not the way Lineage OS works, apparently. Lineage instead retains the original Linux kernel with all the drivers of the original AOSP. Then Lineage is installed over the original OS files. Next, Lineage OS is booted by this original kernel as a separate container. Think of it as like a chroot or a Docker image, or basically just imagine Lineage OS as running as a separate virtual machine. Lineage OS itself doesn't have direct access to the hardware drivers. Instead, it interfaces with a hardware abstraction layer, or HAL, and this module communicates with the original drivers. I was familiar with this method of overlaying another OS on a phone because this is the same method used by Ubuntu Touch, another OS that we expect to be supported by Brax3. So Ubuntu Touch also does not manipulate drivers directly. It uses the same hardware abstraction layer, and it's been so long that I actually forgot this. I now recall that Ubuntu Touch took this module from Lineage OS. Again, to explain the architecture of Lineage OS, the original kernel and vendor files from AOSP are still there. It is not overwritten. If you're looking at the source of the phone, this would be the vendor-related directories. Then Lineage OS is placed in the system directory, and that's booted by the kernel. The exact problem we discovered is that because EOD OS is actually a fork of Lineage OS, then the IMEI writing tool that comes from MediaTek cannot write the IMEI because Lineage OS is running as a container. It doesn't have permissions to access the actual hardware, in this case, the baseband modem. So,
Okay, well, yeah, no surprise there are some architecture issues. Well, I wonder what that means for Ubuntu Touch then when the time comes. Will flashing that erase the IMEI, or should it be, embedded into the chipset? Oh, and I did say that I wasn't sure what the minimal version of their OS that they were developing for the phone that you could sideload. I said it was Liberty OS. Sorry, he just said it's Lunar OS. Okay, so Lunar OS is the one that they're working on.
the factory could not flash IMEIs using EOD OS. IMEI flash solution.
What is it?
Now, to make it clear, the original manufacturer's version of AOSP and our own version of it called Lunar OS actually has direct access to the drivers. We did not originally plan on making Lunar OS available to end users immediately, but it appears it will be necessary to enable IMEI flashing. If Lunar OS is flashed to the phone, it will in fact work like normal, and the IMEI can be flashed with no problem. But it means a double load of the OS. First, we have to flash Lunar OS on it, flash the IMEI, then we have to reflash with EOD OS. Once EOD OS is flashed, then it is now locked from any further IMEI changes.
I see.
allowing IMEI changes. One of the features we wanted to have on Brax3 is that, similar to Brax2, we wanted to allow users to reflash the IMEI if they want. On Brax2, many carriers block the IMEI of the phone because they didn't know what the model was and just labeled the phone as incompatible. So all we had to do was flash it with an IMEI of an acceptable model like Google Pixels, and all the carriers accepted it. All Brax2 phones had modified IMEIs in the US. This IMEI blocking was specifically a USA issue. During the Brax2 production period, no other country did IMEI blocking to identify incompatible models. Brax2 was actually compatible, so the IMEI changing scheme worked fine. Brax3 registered IMEI.
All right, hold on. So this is what some people were trying to tell me in the comments on YouTube about what the Brax2 was. Someone said that supposedly all the models shared in IMEI. That's what I was repeating. I was going based on comments. I didn't use a Brax2 device. I never did try to acquire one. So Brax3, I was understanding was going to be a different approach. So there's the explanation.
The difference today is that Brax3 is a fully registered phone with GSMA, which is the association that manages IMEI pools. And the Brax3 IMEIs were already approved by T-Mobile, so all MVNOs using T-Mobile were all going to be fine.
Okay.
The question was AT&T. We were concerned that AT&T was going to block the IMEIs of the Brax3, so we wanted the option to allow reflashing of the IMEIs to get around that. Well, apparently, while this IMEI flashing problem evolved, we just got informed by AT&T that they will not block the phone. While we don't have an official approval in hand yet, it looks like in the USA, there would likely be no need for anyone to flash the IMEI for compatibility reasons. Also, beta testers on AT&T say that it works currently. Thus, the big crisis for having IMEI being easily changeable is no longer a concern. However, we're still working out the details with the factory, as flashing the OS twice affects the production line, which is all automated, and that's why production is on hold. And by the way, the Brax3 will likely still be blocked by Verizon, and we don't intend to support Verizon. Some frequencies used by Verizon are not on the phone.
Yeah, okay. So I'm glad he mentioned that. This is interesting because Unplugged worked with AT&T until it didn't. And later on, Verizon too. It worked on Verizon until it didn't. So I don't understand what might have happened with the Verizon functionality of it, because again, for those of you that know, it wasn't until LibreDOS 2.0, which brought Android 14 over, that the IMEI, well, that phone calls were not able to connect, not even through Wi-Fi calling through Verizon, but data and text worked just fine. That was an odd thing, but before the update, phone calls and everything worked just fine. But AT&T, however, before the Verizon drama, AT&T, they had this thing. I was understanding that the registration for AT&T went through just fine, and they just, like, they were told that Unplug was told that it was supposed to like work just fine, and then functionality stopped, and it looked like it was blacklisted all of a sudden without any explanation. So they ended up removing that they're supported on AT&T or whatever directly from the website. And same thing with ultimately with Verizon after that whole issue transpired. But they do say like MVNOs and all that, which run on AT&T and T-Mobile, worked just fine. So it's an odd thing. A lot of trickery that happens with these things. It's annoying. And Verizon's the worst of them all. And you got to pay a buttload of money to get Verizon to play ball with you.
IMEI flexibility. At this point,
you know what? Because I'm running short on time. I'll leave it to you guys to, because that explains a lot of the main issues. So let me see if I can get to the end of this. I haven't seen this thing, so I don't know if he has like a summary of things that we can expect. Let me see if he has another flashcard. Like at the end of this. Oh, whatever. It's almost done, huh? Let's keep going.
While the large majority of people do not need to concern themselves with the IMEI, there are some of you who want the ability to change IMEI yourselves. Except for very few countries like the UK, this is completely allowed. If you get your Brax3 and you want to do this, you just have to flash the phone back to the Lunar OS version, and then you can change IMEI over and over. But if you then subsequently install EOD OS or Ubuntu Touch in the future, then the IMEI is unchangeable unless you restore Lunar OS. By the way, reinstalling any OS will result in loss of data, so you always back up before you do this. We will provide instructions for flashing Lunar OS and EOD OS to Brax3 if you're technically capable. It will require a computer.
Yeah.
Australia issues.
Hold on. So Lunar OS is gonna come pre-installed, and then on top of that, they're gonna flash IOD OS. Fascinating. I guess they're gonna have issues with Australia. So let me see if I can get to the next part. Good news. All right. What is it?
The good news, delay aside, is that now we understand how EOD OS can provide long-term support through the phone. Lineage OS typically supports the phone for 10 years. And they can do this because a global image is updated with the latest AOSP version without having to worry about drivers. In contrast, the drivers and main kernel typically don't get updated as quickly because they have to come from MediaTek, in our case. Because of this, EOD OS is always newer than Lunar OS. Lunar OS is currently still based on Android 14, while EOD is Android 15. And Lunar OS is more of a bare bones OS with hardly any apps installed. You have to install your own apps. Also, to repeat the other good news, for USA users and all other countries other than Australia, there is no particular reason for IMEIs to be changed for reasons of compatibility that we are currently aware of. To compensate people for the delay, we will be adding a screen protector to each pre-order for free. Finally, the other good news is that we are not adding any additional cost due to US tariffs. We will eat that cost. And that's also another reason for the delay before, were the tariffs. And the price of the phone has not yet changed, so it is still $299. There's still time to order more phones at the pre-order price. I also encourage you all to visit the website braxtech.net to see what the actual phone looks like. It's a beautiful phone with a great design and includes a beautiful case. And if you're worried about production, I just want to remind you that beta testers already have the phone. This is not vaporware, it's real. So please bear with us for a little longer. You will find that when you make a custom phone and you're not Apple or Google, that it is very hard to do. But we are doing it. It is especially hard when there are other players involved, organizations outside of our control. I think most of you will appreciate a product that's tested and works and will have few problems. That's better than releasing early and having issues with tons of warranty problems. Remember why you wanted a Brax3 privacy phone to begin with. These phones are invisible to big tech, location tracking, and telemetry. This is an important tool to not be part of the phone surveillance infrastructure. Trust me, it will be worth it. Please visit the braxtech.net site to see what you're getting. There are more detailed specs and photos to check out. We will be opening the store soon for actual ordering from braxtech.net, so Indiegogo will soon be closed for pre-orders. And thank you for supporting us. There are few companies with the capability to make custom privacy phones.
All right. Thank you for the updates, Rob. Now let me share just how many phones are still left for you to be able to pick up if you still want to. So this is the Indiegogo site. They have 44 left. So if you want to, they said they were gonna still sell these until they start shipping. So the current timeline has moved to June. So that's what we're hoping for. Now let's look at this website update. So here is the Brax3 phone. Um, Empowering people, not just devices. So it looks good. I've said that too. I like the transparency of the back cover. That's kind of what I wanted to see since the HTC oh my goodness, what is it? Exodus 1, it did that. I think the U11 or the U12 did that from HTC. So I've always been a fan of that. I know that people could buy a sticker and put it on the back of like a D brand sticker in collab with Jerry Rig everything that could have done that. But this is supposed to be a transparent back, and I like that. It just adds to the core values of what the mission is for this thing. Now, I'm out of time. I do have to go. I was gonna cut the episode, or at least what's Rob was saying, but I'm glad I listened to the rest of it because I think it's key. Oh, here we go. This is good. That's a good look. Okay. I wonder how thin it's gonna feel in the hand. That's what I'm curious about. Okay. The bezels from this angle don't look as chunky as feared, so that's a good thing. Selfie cam in the front, fingerprint scanner on the power button. There's the display, of course. Display is a 6.5 inch 90 hertz full HD plus. We'll see how that, and it has a headphone jack. So come on, it's a headphone jack. That's awesome. That already is like a huge advantage. It's a headphone jack. I don't expect it to have a great sound converter, but we'll see what the sound test is like with headphones. The rear cameras. It says cameras, plural. Okay. 50 megapixel main camera and a 2 megapixel telephoto sensor for sharp. Thank you. I've been asking about that. It's like, is the other one a camera just for show to pick up some info for the pictures? And it's like a telephoto sensor. So it's to feed the main camera. The battery is a 5,000 milliamp hour battery. multi-purpose slot with a physical SIM and a micro SD card. Supports the micro SD slot support expansion up to 256 gigabytes. So if you have a 1 terabyte SD card, it won't fit. Powered by a 6 nanometer MediaTek Dimensity 6300 processor combined with 8 gigabytes of RAM. I know some of you were still asking because there was contradictions on the website. They initially said they were going to launch with 6 gigabytes of RAM. They upped it up to 8. And I like that because that really future proofs a lot, so it can last you a while. Built-in NFC technology, yeah, that's pretty straightforward. Technical specs: the main camera, 50 megapixel shooter. Secondary is a 2 megapixel sensor. It's a sensor, and the front is a. Oh wait, so if I have to hit the front side. Selfie camera is a 5 megapixel front-facing camera. We'll have to see how clear those pictures will look. So that's cool. Selfie cameras. Let's go to selfie cameras. Selfie camera, full 30 frames per second. Yeah, but it's 5 megapixels, so that's going to be interesting. I don't think I've seen one that with that few megapixels since the BlackBerry days. Okay, and that's like the breakdown of the phone. I like what I see. All the sensors, the batteries. The right to repair option is going to be interesting because they say you can replace some parts of this thing. So we'll see how that all turns out. Communications and connectivity, certifications. Yeah, what about the certifications? When is it going to go to the FCC? Has that already cleared? I'm assuming it would have because they're mentioning that it has certifications. So overview and May. Well, it's not shipping in May. Obviously, it's shipping in June. There's a design again. I really like this. I'm looking forward to holding this in my hand to see just how very transparent it is. The bottom right fire speaker, USB Type-C charger, microphone pin here next to the headphone jack. And yeah, all right. So liking what I see, this is braxtech.net. If you want to see it for yourself, I will have to save my commentary on Parler until later. But let me just give you a teaser of what I'm talking about. How many of you guys remember when I did the video, the entire series, what is the Freedom Phone? Well, the guy who founded the Freedom Phone project is Erik Finman. He is now a senior advisor with the Optio community. That's the blockchain that Parler is on. And I asked, has Erik apologized about the Freedom Phone? Because people will know I've been very negative about it. So, okay. I have to go. This one I have to go. Okay. So, actually, I got to jump off. So that's where I'll leave it. Guys, follow me across socials, theandrewsegovia.com. The Andrew Segovia, cross socials _Segovia at x.com. And I got to go. See you in the next one.